What's up, everybody? I'm Kirk, and this is The State of the Boom, a monthly recap of FPS news, releases, and a look at upcoming titles. Kicking things off, we have news on the next Bioshock game, and unfortunately, it looks like it's hit a Big Daddy-sized speed bump. The next game in the Bioshock franchise, we'll call it Bioshock 4, began development in 2019 by Northern California-based Cloud Chamber Games. Bioshock 4 is their debut title. Originally reported by Jason Schreier for Bloomberg, after an internal review from 2K Games executives, the game failed to meet their expectations, and it was deemed that many aspects of it, primarily its narrative, had to be overhauled. In the wake of the bad review, Cloud Chamber Games head Kelly Gilmore, formerly an executive producer at Firaxis Games, was ousted, which is a kind way of saying she was fired, and the company's creative director, Hogarth DePlant, who was deeply involved in the development of the original Bioshock, was moved to a publishing role. In the weeks following, Rob Ferguson, the former head of the Diablo franchise at Blizzard, was brought on as the new head of Cloud Chamber. Ferguson is no stranger to the Bioshock franchise, having been previously brought on to the troubled development of Bioshock Infinite to help get it shipped. It was not just the executives that got shuffled and ousted. Sadly, around 80 developers at Cloud Chamber were laid off as well. The news naturally made many fans fearful that Bioshock 4 was in danger of being cancelled outright, but Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick was quick to ease the concerns. Quote, "It's gonna come out. That I can say hand on heart, without question." He went on to insist the long development period is in service of meeting fan expectations. Quote, "The strategy of this company has always been to make the best entertainment, not necessarily the most entertainment. Good is the new bad, great is the new great, and our goal is to make everything exceptional." Sorry, sometimes PR speak gives me acid reflux. Making matters worse for the Bioshock franchise, it was also reported that 2K Games was developing a remake of the original Bioshock, but canceled it earlier this year. While I'd be curious to see what a remake would look like, I'd prefer its resources be redirected to Bioshock 4, which I'm assuming was the reason for the cancellation. Although that all being said, I wouldn't completely rule out a Bioshock remake. Assuming 2K gets Shock 4 on track and has a successful release, I wouldn't be surprised if development on the remake was restarted. As for Bioshock 4, well, clearly it's going to be some time before we see it, which obviously sucks since it's been over 10 years since Bioshock Infinite. However, I can't say I'm surprised by the setback. Look, I love the Bioshock games, and of course I want to see the series continue, but I think a lot of other fans want the next game to do something fresh and different, and it's hard to imagine what that would be after Infinite. Where do we go? Space? A city on the moon, perhaps? And while I'm not 100% against returning to Rapture or Columbia, there needs to be a damn good and inspired reason to do so, far beyond what Burial at Sea did. And I can totally understand a dev team struggling with this. I mean, it's only the sequel to one of the greatest games of all time, no pressure. My hope is that this creative shakeup is in service to moving Bioshock forward and doing something different, and not because the executives are wanting it to be more like the older titles after being spooked by a different direction. It wouldn't shock me, especially after the turbulent development of Bioshock Infinite. Personally, I see the upcoming Judas as the real successor to Bioshock, as it is being helmed by original Bioshock director Ken Levine, and seemingly shares many of its qualities and gameplay stylings. Not to mention, it's also being produced by 2K Games. Battlefield 6 had a hell of a month. The new entry in the Long series was announced last month to cautious optimism from its fanbase, and during August, many concerns were diminished. An open beta was released, free for all, and spread between 2 weekends, and it was a huge success, attracting upwards of 20 million players and breaking player records with over 500,000 concurrent players on Steam, blowing past Call of Duty's all-time record on the platform. EA is touting it as the biggest beta in Battlefield history, and those who played it largely agree that it was a good time, with clear improvements over its predecessor, Battlefield 2042. I put some hours into the beta myself, and despite being terrible at it, I had a lot of fun. The shooting felt great, the destruction physics were incredibly realistic, and the game ran like butter on my machine. The big downside being I had to turn on the stupid secure boot on my PC. Yeah, the less I have to go into my BIOS to make a game run, the better. And I do agree with the consensus that Rush Deathmatch mode sucks. But putting those things aside, I think the big surprise for many is just how positive Battlefield 6's pre-release is going, which in a time when AAA gaming feels unstable, predatory, and disrespectful to gamers is refreshing. EA's messaging on the game has been confident, clear, and player-focused. They have promised the game will run at least 60 frames per second on all systems, something that the beta confirmed. They have promised that it will not feature licensed skins, something that has been fully embraced by its competitors, much to the chagrin of gamers. Servers will have skill-based matchmaking, and despite what initial leaks said, EA has assured Battlefield 6 will launch at $69.99, a clear pushback on the industry trying to normalize $80 AAA games. Although that's not to say there won't be collector's editions and season passes to get more money out of you. Now, I don't see this as some big turning point for the AAA games industry, and there's still plenty of criticism from hardcore Battlefield fans. But it seems like EA and its executives are listening, or at least appearing to be listening, to what gamers actually want and are striving to put out a product that is deserving of their time and money, and not just trying to make their shareholders happy. Although don't get it twisted, that's always going to be top priority. And to be clear, this is not me giving an endorsement to go pre-order the game. No, no, no. Hold the line, people. No pre-orders. But when something positive happens in the AAA space, it should be highlighted, especially in a time where most AAA gaming is pretty negative. Hopefully, EA will bring this sort of attitude into their other franchises, and perhaps influence their competitors to follow. Battlefield 6 is set to release on October 10 for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. This last July, Remedy Entertainment released FBC Firebreak, an online multiplayer shooter set within the Control universe. And suffice it to say, it was a dud on launch, receiving lukewarm reviews and failing to entice players, despite launching on Game Pass and PS Plus. However, instead of letting Firebreak fall into obscurity, Remedy is working to give the game another chance. A major update is planned for the game this September, which will be backed by a marketing campaign to try and draw in more players. To quote Remedy CEO Tero Vitala, "We are committed to continuing to work on FBC Firebreak, engaging with the community and expanding this game." Despite the less than stellar launch for FBC, things have been pretty great for Remedy as of late. The company has all but succeeded in becoming an independent publisher, enjoying healthy profits and recently completing their acquisition of the Control IP from 505 Games. Their 2023 game, Alan Wake 2, was a critical darling, as well as a commercial success, and there's a ton of hype for their upcoming Control 2, as well as their remakes of Max Payne 1 and 2, in cooperation with Rockstar Games, which according to them are coming along nicely. A big highlight for August is that two major gaming conventions took place, Quakecon and Gamescom, making August the month of the... Yeah, thanks, Captain. Quakecon took place down in Grapevine, Texas. The long-running convention dedicated to id Software's FPSs and FPS culture in general attracted thousands, eager to compete in LAN tournaments, talk to their favorite developers, and get a look at upcoming titles. This was also Quakecon's 29th year. Wow. There was, of course, some fun nuggets of news. Doom: The Dark Ages received a new update adding the Repertorium, a customizable horde mode, and it was announced that Doom Eternal's in-game mod support is being moved from the beta branch on the PC version into the official release, with around 650 community mods made available. But my favorite bit of news that made many old-school FPS fans cheer was the surprise release of a Heretic and Hexen remaster from Night Dive Studios, continuing their tradition of dropping id Software remasters during the convention. Originally developed by Raven Software and published by id, Heretic and Hexen were fantasy-themed FPSs powered by the original Doom engine. While not as earth-shattering as their Doom and Quake cousins, the Heretic franchise is beloved by many and put Raven Software on the map. Many have been asking for a remaster of the series as well as a series continuation. The remaster continues Night Dive's, and by extension their parent company, Atari's, partnership with Microsoft and Bethesda to remaster their classic FPS catalog, primarily made up of titles developed and/or published by id Software. It follows their remasters of Doom 64, Quake 1 and 2, and last year's remaster of Doom 1 and 2, which itself was a replacement of a previous remaster developed by Nerve Software that received some mixed reactions from fans. Naturally, this announcement stirred up speculation on what Night Dive might be remastering next for id. with many, including myself, pointing to Quake 3, Quake 4, and Doom 3 as being the most likely. Doom 3 especially could use another remaster after the mixed reception of the BFG edition. Hey, if Bethesda was willing to redo the Doom 1 and 2 remaster, why not Doom 3?
You guys having fun so far? We got a lot of shows still coming your way, all right.
Gamescom was held in Cologne, Germany towards the end of the month, from August 20th to 24th, opening with yet another Jeff Keighley hosted showcase, full of him letting us know that we saw everything there first. And while a wide spectrum of games were announced and celebrated, there was plenty of first-person goodness to behold. One of the biggest reveals was the bizarre Call of Duty Black Ops 7 gameplay trailer, which seemed to get a lot of players excited to pre-order Battlefield 6. Jokes aside, I thought the campaigns for Black Ops Cold War and Black Ops 6 were better than expected, and I am interested to see what this one will bring. But at the same time, I can't help but feel the COD franchise is repeating the same mistakes they made with Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, by trying to mix things up in the franchise with future war scenarios. And the trippy over-the-top aspects featured in the trailer failed to get most people hyped. Hopefully the game turns out better than its cringy marketing campaign. After 10 years of development and its initial development studio being replaced midway through, the long-awaited Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 finally got a gameplay trailer and a date, October 21st, 2025. I have to be honest, judging by the trailer, I think the game looks kind of average and visually dated. However, I hope I'm wrong, because the original Bloodlines, now 21 years old, is a phenomenal cult classic that deserves a phenomenal follow-up, and I want to see the developer Chinese Room nail this one. I'm crossing my fingers and my fangs. Neo Berlin 2087 received a new gameplay trailer full of shiny cyberpunk action and pretty faces. Neo Berlin is an immersive sim taking inspiration from the Deus Ex series, in particular its later entries, Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. It even stars the same voice actor who played protagonist Adam Jensen in those titles. The trailer features both first and third person action, and the visuals are looking mighty good. However, for me, this is one of those titles that's hard to have an opinion on until I get my hands on it. Either way, it looks intriguing, and anything that even remotely comes close to feeling like a new Deus Ex will always have my attention. The expansion to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was shown off, The Order of Giants. I was a big fan of last year's Great Circle, and this expansion looks incredible. Although that's not surprising for its developer, Machine Games, who is known for putting out quality expansions. Order of Giants is set to release next month, September 4th, only a few days after this video drops. Just like during Quakecon, Night Dive Studios announced their next remaster, Outlaws. Yes! This is a forgotten LucasArts gem, well, forgotten to those who aren't old school shooter fans, that has deserved a spruce up for years, and now we're finally getting it by means of Night Dive's Kex engine. Taking place in the Wild West, you play as a US Marshal on a mission to avenge his wife and save his daughter. Outlaws was originally released in 1997 by LucasArts, and used their in-house Jedi engine, which had powered Dark Forces the year prior. Night Dive also released a remaster for Dark Forces last year, which was well received. The trailers showcased the game's up-resed animated cutscenes and gameplay. If you ask me, everything looks as it should. However, I am a little puzzled why all the shots are missed in the trailer. I'm curious if Night Dive was trying to keep things more PG, or if there's a technical issue they're still trying to iron out. Maybe they just feel this shows off the game better. I don't know. Either way, I am really excited for this one, and the announcement got me to reinstall the current version of Outlaws to start warming up. Project Spectrum looks absolutely wild. This free-to-play asymmetrical tactical multiplayer shooter with strong survival horror elements, that's a mouthful, is coming to us from Team Jade, known for developing Delta Force. In it, players will explore mysterious zones where reality is not what it seems, fighting monsters and other players in PvPvE combat. I'll be honest, it was a little hard for me to wrap my head around this one, as the concept is complex to say the least, especially with its surreal setting. But ultimately, I feel this game vibes a lot like Crytek's Hunt Showdown, itself a PvPvE shooter with horror elements. So far, the visuals and atmosphere look amazing, and the horror themes are intriguing. This is one I'm going to keep my eye on. But like so many, Resident Evil 9 Requiem stole the show for me, with a cinematic trailer setting up the game's plot and its full gameplay demo finally shown to the public in both first and third person views, which players will be able to freely switch between during gameplay. I love that that's going to be a feature. The demo features newcomer Grace Ashcroft running away from a new big lady. Although unlike RE8's big lady, I don't want this one catching me. Oh God, look at her. Ugh. I'm a longtime Resident Evil fan, and I think everything about Requiem looks amazing. I think the visuals are incredible and terrifying, and I love that it's wrapping up the quote-unquote Umbrella Corporation storyline, and tying off loose ends. Also, I am in the camp that is hoping the new big lady is Lisa Trevor. That would be incredible. RE9 Requiem is set to release on February 27th, 2026, and I'm praying we get that Code Veronica remake announcement sometime after. And last, Silksong finally got a release date. I know, it's not a first-person shooter, but I've been impatient for this one just like everyone else, and I am stoked to finally be playing it soon.
And this music is... You'll have a tough time finding a buyer.
Good. It's not for sale. Give it to me.
To conclude this packed news section, we have some updates on Bungie and their struggling Marathon reboot. And it's not good. In a recent Q&A meeting with Sony CFO Lin Tao, she assured shareholders that Marathon will be launching by March 31st, 2026, which is the end of Sony's fiscal year, saying that a firm date could be announced during autumn. She does not expect the game to be cancelled, but at the same time, it's not entirely off the table. This comes after the lukewarm reception to its closed alpha, as well as its embarrassing plagiarism fiasco, where it was proven that some of Marathon's art assets were stolen from artist Anti-Real. Not to mention, this follows Sony's disastrous foray into live service gaming, with the mega flop of its hero shooter Concord. Although to be fair, Helldivers 2 has been quite successful. Marathon was originally set to release this September, but was delayed following the plagiarism allegations. But the biggest revelation was that Bungie will be losing its independence and will be fully absorbed into Sony as a support studio. When Bungie was purchased by Sony in 2022, it was stipulated that the studio would be an independent subsidiary able to fully control its creative decisions and publishing. But as Bungie failed to meet its financial goals with Destiny, along with its internal issues, Sony changed their tune and began taking over parts of Bungie last year as part of a larger restructuring. And with the recent negativity surrounding Marathon, which has certainly embarrassed Sony, the company is making its Bungie takeover complete. Key Bungie departments such as marketing, publishing, and production will be directly managed by Sony. Not long after the shareholder call, Bungie CEO Pete Parsons retired after 20 years with the company. It's a sad turn of events for what was once one of gaming's premier developers. But not surprising. Bungie has been struggling with Destiny 2 in recent years, and it has been reported that its employee morale has been at an all-time low, with massive layoffs in the studio. And Marathon itself had a lot going against it, being a live service multiplayer reboot of a classic single-player story-driven franchise. Not something longtime fans were asking for. True, the original Marathon had multiplayer, but it wasn't the core focus. And the plagiarism was a bucket of kerosene on what was seemingly already a dumpster fire. My feeling is that this is going to go one of two ways. The best case scenario is that Bungie rallies, fixes the problems with Sony's guidance, and Marathon is a comeback success. It doesn't mean they regain their independence from Sony, but it keeps them working on the IP, making expansions, perhaps a Marathon 2, a Marathon Durandal reboot, if you will, maybe spinning up another new IP, and that's that. Or, and this is more likely to me, Marathon comes out and underperforms. I don't think it means Bungie shuts down, chiefly because Sony will want them supporting Destiny 2, as well as their other live service efforts, but it's hard to imagine them working on any new IP or taking any sort of creative lead on any of Sony's franchises. They will be a pure support studio, and the Bungie we know will be truly gone. What am I saying? They're basically gone already. To end this with some good news though, the original Marathon trilogy is currently on Steam for free, and recently its source port, LF1, has been receiving updates that are currently in beta testing. If you enjoy old school shooters and want to experience Bungie's roots, as well as the spiritual precursor to the Halo series, I highly recommend it. Alright, now let's go over the releases from August. Technoplasm was released into early access, the FPS beat-em-up set in a cyberpunk universe. I reviewed the first early access build of this and enjoyed it quite a bit. If you want my thoughts on it, you can check out my review, linked down in the description. As discussed earlier, the Heretic and Hexen remaster was released for PC and consoles, coming from the remaster masters at Night Dive Studios. The remaster, of course, includes Heretic as well as its sequel Hexen, both rocking a plethora of quality of life improvements, chief of which running at resolutions up to 4K and performing at up to 120 frames per second on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Online crossplay deathmatch and co-op is included too. The House of the Dead 2 remake was released on the same day. Reviews on this one are pretty bad so far. Might be better to stick with the original. Co-op roguelite Abyssus was released, allowing up to 4 friends to battle it out at the bottom of the sea. Midnight Murder Club, the hide-and-seek multiplayer party game where you sneak up on your friends and murder them, entered 1.0 after a short early access period. Gravelord spin-off Horde Lord was released, full of wave-based boom shootery. Another roguelite FPS, Voidbreaker, was released into early access on Steam and Xbox Game Pass, where you fight lots of machines with lots of fun-looking physics. I've been seeing some good buzz on this one, and I'm hoping to try it out very soon. Incision, the old-school shooter that will make you want a tetanus shot, finally exited early access into a full 1.0 release. I reviewed the first early access build a few years back and loved it. Sadly, I didn't have time to review the 1.0 version in time for release, but I'm planning on getting to it very soon. And last, let's take a peek at some of the upcoming titles for September. Metal Eden is finally dropping September 2nd, only a few days away. This was originally slated for May of this year, but was pushed back so its dev team could address player feedback following its April demo. I recently played that demo myself, which did receive some updates over the summer, and I have to admit, while I love the style of this one, I'm not sure it's clicking for me. But I was a fan of the developer's previous game, Ruiner, and I'm hoping this one sticks the landing. Once again, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle expansion, Order of Giants, is dropping on September 4th, which is the same day as Silksong. Oof, that'll be a busy day. Borderlands 4 is coming September 12th. I'm not sure if I'm going to be jumping into this one. I loved Borderlands 2, and 3 was fun as long as you played it on mute, but nothing about 4 has me too hyped. But if the reviews are good, or if a code is somehow sent to me, I'll probably give it a go. And Dying Light the Beast is coming September 18th. A third round of zombie parkour action. Sounds great. And that's it for me. If there's any FPS news stories, releases, or upcoming titles not featured here that you care about, please be sure to share down in the comments. And as far as my channel goes, be sure to check out my recent reviews for Technoplasm as well as Call of the Void, an excellent Quake 2 mod that combines the worlds of Quake 1 and 2. I hope all of you are doing well. See you next month for more State of the Boom. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and smack that bell. If you want to come say hi, my Discord is linked below along with my affiliate links. I'm KIRK, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.